From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Steve Milton.
It's Thursday, May 30th. This is Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton. This morning, the Cats had a final walkthrough, that's practicing plays and formations, particularly on special teams, before their last preseason game tomorrow night against the Argos, or as Scott Milanovich referred to them today, that other team. The game is in Guelph, and that'll be a big theme of this extended version of Ticats Today, in which we'll hear from Taylor Powell, who will start at quarterback, from Milanovich and what he's looking for from Powell and the other two quarterbacks who see action, from Lawrence Woods, who made the team with his play in the last time the Ticats were in Guelph for an exhibition game 2 years ago, and from Bo Levi Mitchell, who will not play tomorrow night, but was in Guelph with the Calgary Stampeders when the Ticats made it their home stadium for the 2013 season. You can hear all of those interviews and a bonus one from safety Robert Ponnebaker in the entirety on listen.ticats.ca. Okay, on to Guelph. I, and anyone else who was around the Ticats a decade ago, will never hear that word Guelph without thinking about 2013, without thinking about the horrible weather, without thinking about the year of the perpetual road games, which galvanized a resurgent Hamilton Tiger Cats franchise. What should have been a disaster, and was, in terms of meteorology, was actually a turning point in the historical arc of the Ticats, and I'm talking about a positive turning point. 2 weeks ago, Simone Lawrence and I were speakers at the Guelph Sports Celebrity Banquet, and the Guelph season came up repeatedly among audience members. That was Simone's first year as a Ticat, and people had memories which they wanted to share with him. Many of them were there often as that small city embraced the team for 9 games. That Ticat season 11 years ago was one of the most unusual in CFL history, in pro football history, actually. After a last-minute compromise to build the new Pan Am Games Stadium on the same site as Old Ivor Wynn necessitated the raising of their home stadium, the Ticats were left without a place to play for 2013. They could practice at McMaster all season, but the university didn't accommodate them for the regular season. So Ticats executives made a deal with the University of Guelph to play all of their home, and I use that word advisedly, games at Alumni Stadium. Well, all the home games but one. They were the host team at Touchdown Atlantic at Moncton that year also. The team spent a huge amount of money on making conditions as welcoming as they could. They turned their downtown corporate headquarters into a dressing room. They rented city buses to travel in their full gear like minor squirt hockey players to practice at McMaster, held team unity meetings on that bus, and then bused 60 kilometers north for the home games. Migratory birds travel less distance in a season. In Guelph, the club paid for added stands to get capacity up to 13,000 plus and other improvements, and installed trailers as dressing rooms. The fans had unbelievable access to their Ticat heroes as they mounted the small hill from the end zone to the makeshift dressing rooms at the top of the hill. A small hill, usually so greased in mud from the inclement weather that it was like a ride at an amusement park. There was great tailgating right across the road at the Cuttin Club, led by the Box J boys and the family of Andy Fantus. The private boxes were tents at the top of the newly constructed and now gone stands. And the biggest memory, of course, was the weather. It was always worse there than anywhere else in the region. Mini monsoons for so many games, rain so dense, for instance, that Drew Edwards and I, spec teammates, took turns standing outside to report to the other guy because you couldn't see through the plastic covering on the press box because there was so much rain. There were field goals which looked made that year that the wind blew back and almost hit the kicker, most notably Sean White. The Ticats rallied somehow late in the season to beat Montreal twice at the end, once to clinch a home playoff berth, and then in the East semifinal when they made an improbable overtime march 97 yards into the Arctic wind using 2 quarterbacks, Henry Burris and Dan Lefevre, and twice passing up on game-tying field goals to make it at 3rd and short. Then they beat the defending champion Argos, coached by Scott Milanovich, in Toronto to reach their first Grey Cup in the 21st century. Now, if this had been the NFL, there'd have already been commemorative postage stamps, a couple of documentaries, and maybe 3 Disney movies, and then a bunch more for the 10th anniversary last year. The Chicago Bears, for instance, lost their home stadium for a year and had to play 8 games at Notre Dame, and it was big news all over the place. But their practice facilities were still the same. Oddly, one player, Henry Burris, played on both teams, and he and I have often said that the 2013 season here is among the most under-recognized achievements in Canadian football. With Joel Figueroa injured and Simone Lawrence newly retired, there are no Ticats in uniform tomorrow night who played home games at Guelph that season. But Bo Levi Mitchell did. The Ticat quarterback got into some plays with the Calgary Stampeders the season before he became the starter in Calgary as the Stampeders hammered the Tiger Cats 35-11 in October at Guelph. By the way, that week was the first week as Ticats for Luke Tasker and Speedy Banks. Here's Bo Levi Mitchell.
The one thing I remember about it, like I come from a big high school, right? So my entire football career I've had a lot of fans in the stands. Like that's something I've always been used to. So going from kind of Texas to obviously to college football, in the States, and then I came up here, and in my mind I'm thinking professional football, right? Like how many fans are going to be there? And our first home game in Calgary, I was like, man, this is wild. Like, this is so amazing. And then I'm finding out like we got this game in Guelph, and I was like, oh yeah, it's a university. I'm like, why are we playing at a university? Like, well, they're getting a new stadium, it's getting renovated, blah, blah, blah. So we get here, and I will say, I thought I was going to be underwhelmed by it, but the stands are packed, and it just reminds you of, like, an amazing high school game where, there's just, it feels like there's supposed to be, like, a band playing, like, student section. I do remember that game. It was definitely a fun one. I wish I got to play more in it, but, I'm not sure it's a compliment that I was one of the few players in the league that played there. I think the cool thing about it is it'll bring guys back to kind of where their roots are from, I think, playing. Like I think kind of the touchdown Atlanta games, things like that, like it's a really cool, awesome thought that we get to kind of go play in front of different people in different spots. And the Turk's gonna be great. Like it'll be a great feel. It'll be great. It'll be a great game. Like we're all kind of like just sitting down on the ground, like just sweating. It was hot as heck inside of those portables. And then you're walking through like kind of dirt gravel to get to the stadium. Like it felt like at halftime they were going to bring out like Capri Suns and oranges and like here you go, here's your halftime snack.
Back to present day or present night. Milanovic won't use many starters tomorrow night, although some of the players at the top of the depth chart may eventually start as the season moves on. All on-the-bubble receivers and defensive linemen and defensive backs and linebackers particularly will all be getting a good long look.
Yeah, it's, multiple reasons. We need to see some other battles. We play in Alberta 7 days after that game, so it's a combination of guys that we know that are going to be starters, giving them a break on their legs, getting them fresh, and the guys that we need to see, we're going to see.
But the Argos, the home team, will be using most of their potential starters, including quarterback Cameron Dukes, and their top people on what should still be a very good defense. That should prove valuable to Powell. Here's his coach on that.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for all these guys to shine, and it doesn't really matter to us who's out there. We got to go out and do our job. So it's a great opportunity for Taylor and for all the guys out there.
As camp ended, we asked Powell to rate how these 3 weeks have gone for him.
I would just say I wouldn't rate it or anything. I'd let the coaches and personnel handle that. But I just think I've tried to come in and be consistent, and as a person and as a player, just own my routine. Really just hone into the details of the offense, listen to Scott and JB, and just try to become the best quarterback I can be.
And we'll sign off with another memory of Guelph. The only time the Ticats have been back to play a game in Guelph since that 2013 season was 2 years ago when they again visited the Argos. Lawrence Woods, who will run back kicks tomorrow night and be first off the bench at cornerback, had an interception in that game, and he ran one back to the house, making the team in the final few minutes of the preseason. He, of course, has fond memories of Guelph.
Oh yeah, man! It definitely holds a special place in my heart. I had to tell a lot of these guys that's on the cusp, just like I was. Hey, this where I made my position at. This where I got my spot at. This where I made my mark at. So I want you guys to come out here and give it everything. Because sometimes you won't get that starting position, but you got to go out here and bust your butt on special teams to show everybody that you still can do what you can do.
So all of us are off to Guelph tomorrow night, 11 years after the season of the Nomads. Thanks for listening and watching, and catch our next episode on Saturday when we analyze what we saw in Guelph, talk about the final roster cuts which should come Saturday, and look ahead to preparations for the season opener in Calgary next Friday night. And for more on training camp, always visit ticats.ca/training camp. That's ticats.ca/training camp.
This has been Ticats Today with Steve Milton. Catch it on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.